Howdy everybody in YouTube land. This is a Entegra brand, which is actually made by Onkyo. See what model. It is a DTR-50.2. So this guy has no sound, and doing some quick inspections in here. Obviously I don't see anything obvious, no burns or anything like that, other than this thing is clearly seeing a lot of heat. So I went ahead and fired it up. There's no sound. So the first thing I tried to do was I tried to look up service history on this thing. Well, service history in general, service information. So then I decided to go to Google and I started typing out the model number, and of course the first thing that pops up, no sound, right off the suggested search results as soon as I started to type it in. So that tells you it's a very common problem with these things. Anyway, what we have here is an FLI 30336, a NAND memory, some SD RAM, a DSP by Texas Instruments, another Texas Instruments part there, a bunch of silicon image parts. So a couple things could have happened. It could have been hit by lightning through one of the HDMI jacks and killed some stuff, which is very common. Or it could be another fault. But apparently, from what I'm reading online, is these things have no sound. Sometimes if you reset it several times, the sound will come back. Sometimes you'll just get video only. It's really random. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on. And as you can tell, no sound. I have a function generator app running on my phone, and I have it plugged into my headphones. No sound. So, but my immediate suspicions is it's to feel around. Well, my first check is I'm going to feel around, make sure there's nothing getting abnormally hot. So nothing is getting hot at all abnormally. This chip here is getting really warm. So the second thing I'm going to do is do some quick voltage checks. So what we have up here are the voltage regulators. So the input voltage should be 12 volts, which is a little high, but it's close enough. Alright, let's check this regulator here. 4.95 volts. Let's check the next one. 2.47. They all seem a little low. Check that one. That one's good. Let's check that one. That one's good. A little low, but good. So all my voltages are present. Oh, there's another one down here. Let's check it. 3.3 on the output. What's on the input? 5. Center point would be ground. Yep, it is. So this thing is got power. And again, let's do another check. Make sure I'm not feeling any overheating part. Wow, that thing's getting warm. So I'm sure there's parts on the back side. I don't know yet. I haven't taken it apart. This is the first time I've really messed with it. So alrighty then. So the first thing that comes to mind, if it isn't lightning, would be broken solder joints. So I can flex this board and see. Got power off. Let me push on some stuff, warp the board a little bit here, and turn it back on. See if I hear any sound. Nope, nothing. So let's see, what am I going to do next? Well, second thing I like to do is heat up some things. So let's heat up. Let's get this thing preheated first. Let's heat up the DSP and the memory first. Okay, that's hot. See if that makes any difference. Nope, nothing. It's not going into protection. I went ahead and rolled that out, even though most people wouldn't, but I rolled that out because you hear 2 clicks. You hear the standby relay, and inside this unit, it's hiding down in here, there's another pair of relays. That's the protection speaker relays. See, listen. Click, 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 click. So I know it's not in protection. So the next thing to do would be, let's heat. I heated the DSP up, I heated the memory up, it didn't make any difference. So let's heat up, well, let me think, where do I want to go next? Let's heat up underneath here. Because there's a heat sink that sits right there, you can't see it. But that would dry out capacitors, which tend to temporarily reform when you heat them up with a heat gun. So let's go ahead and heat up underneath here. Because if I recall, yeah, there's a few capacitors up under there, so let's try that. Oh, hear that? And there it is. Now I have sound. So something up under here is faulty. Either capacitors have dried out or there's a bad solder joint. Now I flexed the board really hard down here, so I know it's not a solder joint. So I'm thinking we've got dried out capacitors. And the reason why I heated this area up instead of this area, well, for one, we checked the voltages up here and they were all good. They were all stable. They're a little low, but that could be because some of these caps are dried out too. It's possible. However, there's this big heat sink right here. Well, that heat sink puts out a lot of heat. As I noticed it right before I started this video, that thing's pretty hot. Well, directly above that, I don't think I can get it in a view here. There's an aluminum capacitor, and there's probably some more up underneath there that I can't see. Well, that aluminum capacitor is sitting directly above the heat sink, so when this thing is sitting flat, all the hot air rises. So it's going to dry out any components that are in there. There could be other capacitors in there that I can't see that's hiding. I don't know. But anyways, we have sound. We have sound. So that's a good thing. That's a start. So and that pretty much is going to conclude this video. I've got some more receivers like this I have to look at. I'll do additional videos on that. But that was that's a simple troubleshooting video on how you can try to narrow down potentially where the fault may lie. But like I said, you didn't see me do it in the video, but the first step I would normally do, if this receiver would have been 20 plus years old, first thing I would normally do is check the amplifier stages, because 9 times out of 10 they would be shorted or blown. But since this thing is modern, it's less likely this and more likely that nowadays. This is the digital board. There's a main processor here with the firmware that boots and probably runs this thing. And just like anything, when you're messing with digital electronics, especially to this magnitude, there's a couple RAM ICs up here. Just like computers, man. Computers have removable SIM and DIMM memory modules that go bad all the time. I'm sure people that have had computers, you've had to change a stick of DDR3 or DDR4 every once in a while. Same difference here. This is probably SD RAM, and one of these two could go bad and cause all kinds of problems. The BGA solder joints can break up under there, although it's probably not as likely because it doesn't really get that warm. It's warm, but it's not that warm. But more times than not, since it feels like this is a double-sided manufactured board, because I can feel components up under here, they're not glued in place on these. They're just reflowed in place with the solder. And that's a problem, because as these things heat and cool, it's working with gravity pulling it down, and the only thing stopping it from falling and hitting the earth is the solder joints. So as the components heat up and cool down, it's going to break the solder loose, because that's the only thing holding the component in place. The early days of surface mount, when they were assembled, they were glued in place with a glue nozzle on the pick and place machine, because they were wave soldered. Now it's all reflow solder today, and I've personally seen those type of systems in action, because there's a company that's in the same building as my company called Tectone, and they have a full manufacturing facility where they manufacture component loaded circuit boards and reflow soldering and wave soldering and all that stuff. So I've seen it all in action. So yeah, but now I bet you, since this is cooled off, turn the power off, turn it back on. Nothing. Oh, no, it loaded. It just took a very long time. So it's getting slower. Cool. Now that the board's warmed up from operation, that's probably why, where I've read in some forums that after it's on for a bit and you do a couple resets or whatever, it suddenly starts working again. Well, that's why. Because when you turn the power on, all these components start heating up from voltage flowing through it, current flowing through it. So, and it will, you're chasing a red herring, but let this thing cool all the way down, it won't work again, I guarantee it. But, nope, it's out. No sound. Grab the heat gun, put it on low, let it warm up a little bit. Put it right up under here. That quick. So if I recycle, there it goes. So I ultimately narrowed it down to one chip, which is right here. And I don't know if I can get the focus to work properly, but can I get you to focus? Maybe. But you can kind of sort of see the flux residue. I went ahead and put some flux in here and reflowed this chip. I did it the first time around and it didn't work at all anymore, but I don't think I got it hot enough, so I heated it up again, so hot that I actually melted the tag here by accident. But then I heated it up again, and as it got to a point where I thought was good, all I did was just barely tap it with this pick tool, and I watched this chip bounce a little bit, just a tiny bit. So once I saw that chip bounce, I knew it had molten and everything was good. And all the flux residue had flown through the vias to the other side, and it's a mess. So eventually I'm going to have to take this and through the ultrasonic cleaner and get all that crap out of it. But after I did that, just so happens, now it's able to recognize the Ethernet. Stereo, come on. It would get stuck right there and it wouldn't do anything. Oh, we're further than we were before. And there's been an hour in between this second part of the video and from the rework, so this board is ice cold. There it is. Let's see, connecting, favorites. Let's see, my added stations, local stations. Let's see what's on. Yeah, well, there's all the stations. There it goes. Of course, the first song that it plays is the worst song in the world, because I cannot stand this singer, because it runs right through my ears like a nails on a chalkboard. But anyway, this isn't about the quality of the music. This is about the actual repair. So everything's good. I want to pull this board and clean it and put it back in here, but this concludes this video. Everything is up and functional. Thank you for watching, and feel free to leave a comment if you have one.